The air inside St. Patrick's Cathedral was thick with anticipation, the scent of roses and polished wood mingling with the murmurs of New York's elite. Crystal chandeliers cast a golden glow over the pews, where over 300 guests, business tycoons, celebrities, and even a senator, sat in tailored suits and glittering gowns. At the altar, Ethan Caldwell, a 38-year-old white American real estate mogul, adjusted his cufflinks, his sharp blue eyes flicking to the gold watch on his wrist. 10 minutes late, his bride, Abigail Wentworth, daughter of one of Manhattan's oldest banking families, was nowhere to be seen. Ethan smiled as his best man, Nathan Brooks, clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Relax, man. Brides are always late. It's practically tradition." Nathan's easy grin was meant to reassure, but Ethan's stomach churned. At his side, the priest shifted, glancing toward the cathedral's towering doors. The organist, perched in the loft, looped through a soft prelude for the third time, the notes growing faintly strained. Ethan nodded, tugging at his black tuxedo's lapel. He was no stranger to pressure. His company, Caldwell Enterprises, had reshaped Manhattan's skyline with sleek high-rises and luxury complexes. At 38, he'd amassed a fortune and a reputation as a visionary, his name synonymous with ambition and precision. Today was the pinnacle of his carefully curated life, a union with Abigail, whose pedigree and poise made her the perfect match in the eyes of his family and society. Their wedding, dubbed the year's event by every glossy magazine, was a spectacle of wealth and status, with photographers discreetly positioned to capture the moment for page 6. Yet, as the minutes stretched to 20, then 30, unease spread through the crowd. Ethan's mother, Charlotte Caldwell, approached, her silver hair immaculate, her face etched with concern beneath flawless makeup. "Ethan, darling, have you heard from Abigail? The guests are getting restless. I've texted her." No reply, Ethan said, his voice steady despite the tightening in his chest. He glanced at Abigail's maid of honor, Cecilia, who shook her head, her phone clutched tightly. "She's not answering me either." As if on cue, Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, his heart thudding as Abigail's name flashed on the screen. The message was brief, each word a shard of ice. "I can't do this, Ethan. I'm sorry. Don't look for me." He read it twice, the letters blurring as his mind struggled to process. The phone slipped from his fingers, clattering onto the marble floor with a sound that echoed in the silent cathedral. Nathan bent to retrieve it, his brow furrowing. "Ethan, what's wrong?" "She's not coming," Ethan said, his voice hollow, barely audible. "Abigail's not coming." A collective gasp rippled through the guests, followed by whispers that spread like wildfire. Charlotte snatched the phone from Nathan, her eyes scanning the message before she gasped. "Oh, Ethan." Ever pragmatic, she straightened, her voice firm. "We need to make an announcement. Now." Ethan loosened his tie, the air suddenly stifling. "You handle it, Mother. I'm leaving." "Ethan, you can't just walk out," Charlotte protested, her hand on his arm. "There are 300 people here, business partners, reporters. What about the reception?" But Ethan was already moving, striding past rows of shocked faces down the aisle. Pitying glances and hushed questions followed him. What happened? Did she run off? Poor Caldwell. Cameras flashed as reporters, invited for the society scoop, pivoted to capture his retreat. He ignored them, his jaw set, his only thought to escape the weight of their stares. Outside, the June sun was blinding, the cathedral's steps lined with velvet ropes and curious onlookers. Ethan slid into his silver Aston Martin, parked curbside, and gunned the engine, tires screeching against the pavement as he sped away from Fifth Avenue. Manhattan's skyscrapers blurred past, their glass facades a reminder of the empire he'd built and the life he'd thought was perfect. He drove aimlessly, the text replaying in his mind. I can't do this. Why? They'd been together for 2 years, their engagement a whirlwind of galas and planning. Abigail had seemed happy at last night's rehearsal dinner, her laughter bright as she toasted with champagne. Or had she? A flicker of doubt surfaced, her recent silences, her insistence on a prenup despite his greater wealth. Had he missed the signs, too caught up in his vision of their future? His hands tightened on the wheel. He needed a drink, but not at his usual haunts, the upscale clubs where bartenders knew his name and colleagues would whisper about his disgrace. He craved anonymity, where no one would recognize Ethan Caldwell, the jilted billionaire. Crossing the Brooklyn Bridge, he found himself in a quieter borough, its streets lined with brownstones and corner delis. A neon sign caught his eye. O'Malley's Bar, its faded green glow promising refuge. Ethan parked and stepped inside, the dim interior contrasting with the cathedral's grandeur. The bar was nearly empty, its wooden floors scuffed, a jukebox humming softly in the corner. A few early patrons nursed beers at mismatched tables. Ethan slid onto a stool at the counter, his tuxedo drawing a few curious glances. He'd ditched his bow tie in the car, but the tailored jacket and polished shoes marked him as out of place. Behind the bar, a figure moved, wiping glasses with practiced ease. Ethan looked up, expecting a grizzled veteran, but instead met the gaze of a woman whose presence seemed to anchor the room. Her warm brown eyes held a quiet strength, her dark curls pulled back in a loose ponytail. She wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans, her expression direct, but not unkind. "What can I get you?" she asked, her voice carrying a faint Brooklyn accent, her raised eyebrow noting his formal attire. Ethan hesitated, the weight of the day pressing down. "Scotch. Your best." She nodded, reaching for a bottle, her movements efficient. As she poured, she studied him, her gaze steady, but not intrusive. "Rough day?" she asked, sliding the glass across the bar. Ethan gave a bitter laugh, the sound foreign to his ears. "You could say that." He took a sip, the amber liquid burning his throat. "I was supposed to get married today. My bride didn't show." Her expression softened, though her tone remained matter-of-fact. "That's tough. I'm sorry." She leaned against the counter, her presence grounding. "I'm Maya, by the way." "Ethan," he replied, meeting her eyes. For the first time since Abigail's text, he felt a flicker of something other than pain, a sense of being seen, not as a headline, but as a person. The bar's quiet hum, Maya's steady gaze, and the weight of the scotch in his hand offered a fleeting reprieve from the chaos he'd left behind. He didn't know it yet, but this moment, in this unassuming Brooklyn bar, began a new chapter that would change everything. The amber glow of O'Malley's Bar wrapped Ethan Caldwell like a cocoon, its warmth starkly contrasting with the cold marble of St. Patrick's Cathedral. The jukebox played a low, soulful tune, and the faint clink of glasses punctuated the murmur of early evening patrons. Ethan sat at the bar, his half-empty scotch glass and tuxedo jacket slung over the stool beside him. The weight of Abigail's text. "I can't do this, Ethan. I'm sorry. Don't look for me," still pressed against his chest. But the bar's unpretentious atmosphere dulled the edge of his humiliation. Maya Johnson, the bartender who'd introduced herself moments ago, moved with quiet efficiency behind the counter, wiping down bottles and exchanging quick banter with a regular at the far end. Her presence was magnetic, not in the calculated way of the socialites Ethan knew, but in a grounded, effortless confidence that seemed to anchor the room. She returned to his side, leaning forward slightly, her dark curls catching the light. Another? She asked, nodding toward his glass. Ethan hesitated, then pushed the glass forward. Sure. But go easy. I'm not trying to drown my sorrows completely. Maya's lips quirked in a half-smile. Smart choice. Drowning sorrows sounds poetic, but it's hell on the liver. She poured a measured amount of scotch, sliding it back with a steady hand. So, wedding guy, what's the story? You don't strike me as the type to end up in a place like this by accident. Ethan met her gaze, surprised by her directness. People tiptoed around personal questions in his world, cloaking curiosity in polite small talk. He was swirling the scotch. He said I needed somewhere no one would know me. Somewhere I could disappear for a while. My fiancé, ex-fiancé, left me at the altar today in front of half of Manhattan. Maya's eyes softened, but she didn't flinch. Ouch. That's a public kind of hurt. Bet the society pages are having a field day. She leaned against the counter, her tone empathetic, but not pitying. You want to talk about it? Or is the scotch doing the talking for you? He gave a dry laugh, the sound rusty. Not much to say. 1 minute I'm waiting for her to walk down the aisle. The next I'm reading a text saying she's gone. No explanation, no warning. He took a sip, the burn grounding him. I thought we were solid. 2 years together. A wedding plan to the last detail. Guess I was wrong. Maya nodded, her expression thoughtful. People don't just bolt like that without a reason. Maybe she was running from something bigger than you. Her family. The life you two were supposed to have. She shrugged, wiping a spot on the counter. Or maybe she just got cold feet. Either way, it's her loss, not yours. Ethan looked at her, struck by the simplicity of her words. In his world, Abigail's departure would be dissected by analysts and gossips, spun into narratives of scandal or betrayal. Maya's perspective cut through the noise, offering clarity without judgment. He said, you sound like you've seen this kind of thing before. Bartending 101, she replied, a wry smile tugging at her lips. You hear every story, breakups, makeups, midlife crises. People spill their guts when they're hurting. I listen and pour. She tilted her head, studying him. But you're not the spilling guts type, are you? Too used to keeping it together for the boardroom. He chuckled, the tension in his shoulders easing. Guilty. I run a real estate company. Keeping it together is my job. He paused, then added, but tonight, I'm not sure I'm doing such a great job of it. Maya's smile widened, warm and unguarded. You're doing fine. You're here, not chasing your ex down Fifth Avenue or crying into a martini at some fancy club. That's a start. She glanced at a couple signaling for drinks, then back at Ethan. Hang tight. I'll be back to check if you're still upright. As she moved away, Ethan watched her work. Her ease with customers a stark contrast to the polished interactions of his social circle. She laughed at a regular's joke, her hands quick as she mixed a cocktail, her presence commanding without effort. The bar began to fill with after-work patrons, construction workers, artists, a few hipsters, each greeted by Maya with the same genuine warmth. Ethan felt out of place in his tailored tuxedo, yet oddly comfortable, as if the bar's worn wood and neon glow offered a reprieve from the expectations that defined his life. He sipped his scotch, his mind replaying the cathedral's chaos, the gasps, the flashing cameras, his mother's urgent whisper. The memory stung, but Maya's words lingered. Her loss, not yours. For the first time, he wondered if Abigail's exit might be a fracture he could build from, not just a wound to nurse. The thought was fleeting, drowned by the ache of betrayal, but it planted a seed. Maya returned, sliding a glass of water his way. Hydrate. I'm not mopping you off the floor tonight. Her tone was teasing, but her eyes held a quiet concern. You holding up okay? Ethan admitted better than I was an hour ago, surprised by his honesty. Thanks for this. The drink, the talk. It's more than I expected. She shrugged, but her smile was genuine. Comes with the job. However, I don't usually get guys in tuxedos spilling their wedding woes. She nodded toward his watch, a sleek Rolex glinting under the bar's lights. That thing costs more than my rent for a year. You sure you're in the right place? Ethan laughed, the sound freer this time. Maybe not, but it feels right. He met her gaze, a spark of connection passing between them. What about you? How'd you end up slinging drinks in Brooklyn? Maya's expression flickered, a shadow crossing her face before she masked it with a grin. Long story. Short version? Life happened, and plans changed. I like it here. Good people, good stories. She gestured to the bar, now buzzing with laughter and conversation. Plus, I'm my boss most nights. Beats working for some corporate type in Manhattan. Ethan raised his glass in a mock toast. To good stories, then. To survive bad ones, Maya countered, clinking an imaginary glass. A customer called her name, and she pushed off the counter. Duty calls. Don't go falling apart on me, Ethan. As she walked away, Ethan felt a shift, subtle but undeniable. The bar's warmth, Maya's unfiltered candor, and the absence of pretense were a world apart from the cathedral's grandeur and his family's expectations. He didn't know where this night would lead, but he felt a flicker of hope for the first time since Abigail's text, like a light breaking through the fog of his heartbreak. Maya's laughter from across the bar drew his attention, and he realized he wanted to hear more of it, to know the woman behind the quick wit and steady gaze. Tonight, in this unassuming corner of Brooklyn, something new was beginning. The Starlight Diner glowed like a beacon in the Brooklyn night, its neon sign casting a soft pink hue over the cracked sidewalk. The air smelled of coffee and syrup, and the hum of late-night conversations mingled with the grill sizzle. Ethan Caldwell sat across from Maya Johnson in a red vinyl booth, his tuxedo jacket draped over the seat, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar. The weight of Abigail's betrayal lingered, but the diner's warmth and Maya's steady presence dulled its sting. A plate of blueberry pancakes sat between them, steam rising from the golden stacks. Maya poured syrup with a flourish, creating a glossy pool on her plate. You sure you don't want more? She asked, nudging the plate toward Ethan. You look like you haven't eaten since the rehearsal dinner. Ethan managed a small smile, picking up his fork. I haven't. Didn't realize how hungry I was until now. He took a bite, the sweet, tart burst of blueberries grounding him in the moment. These are good. You come here often? Whenever I need a reset, Maya said, cutting into her pancakes. This place has been here forever. My mom used to bring me here when I was a kid, late nights after her shifts at the hospital. Pancakes at 1 a.m. were our thing. Her voice softened, a flicker of nostalgia crossing her face before she caught herself. Anyway, it's cheap and open all night, perfect for post-shift decompression. Ethan nodded, intrigued by the glimpse into her life. Your mom sounds like she was a hard worker. Nurse? ER nurse. Maya confirmed that her eyes were on her plate. She worked doubles to keep us afloat after my dad left. Got sick a few years back. Cancer. I dropped out of art school to take care of her. She paused, her fork still, then looked up with a wry smile. Sorry, didn't mean to turn this into a sob story. The point is, life throws curveballs. You roll with them. Ethan set down his fork, her words hitting close to home. That's a hell of a curveball. I'm sorry about your mom. He hesitated, then added, I can't imagine dropping everything like that. I've spent my life planning every move, business deals, mergers, this wedding. And still, here I am, blindsided. Maya leaned back, studying him with those warm brown eyes that seemed to see through his polished exterior. It sounds like you planned the life everyone else wanted for you. A big wedding, a fancy fiancé, and the whole Manhattan dream. Ever stop to ask what you wanted? Her question caught him off guard, sharp and unyielding. In his world, people didn't ask things like that directly. I thought I knew, he admitted, his voice low. Abigail and I met at a charity gala. She was perfect, on paper, smart, connected, from a family like mine. We made sense. Everyone said so. My parents, my colleagues, the press. But lately, she was distant, obsessed with the wedding being in all the right magazines, the right guest list. I thought it was just stress. Maybe I didn't want to see the truth. Maya nodded, her expression thoughtful. People show you what they want you to see, especially when there's status involved. I'm guessing she loved the idea of you, the real estate tycoon, the Caldwell name, more than the guy sitting here eating pancakes in a tuxedo. Ethan winced, but her words rang true. You're right. She insisted on a prenup to protect her family's money, even though mine's worth more. I thought it was practical. Now I wonder if it was a sign she was already halfway out the door. Sounds like she was marrying the life. Not you, Maya said, her tone gentle but firm. I've seen it before. Folks chasing the image, not the reality. Love's supposed to be about the messy stuff, not the Instagram filter. She took a sip of coffee, her gaze steady. So, what now? You gonna chase her down, or figure out what's next? Ethan leaned back, the question settling like a stone. I don't want to chase her. That text hurt, but it also felt like a wake-up call. I've been living for other people's expectations. My parents, board, society. I don't even know what I'd do if I stopped. Maya's smile was slight, but knowing. That's the fun part. You get to find out. Maybe start with small stuff, like eating pancakes at 1 a.m. instead of sipping champagne at some gala. She gestured to the diner, its worn booths filled with a mix of night owls, a cabbie reading a paper, a couple laughing over fries, an artist sketching in the corner. This is real. No one here cares about your net worth or your last name. Ethan looked around, the simplicity of the scene sinking in. The diner was a world away from the cathedral's chandeliers, his family's penthouse, and the boardrooms where he'd built his empire. Yet, sitting here with Maya, he felt more himself than in years. How'd you get so wise? He asked, half teasing. Years of listening to drunk people's problems, she shot back, her eyes twinkling. Growing up in Brooklyn teaches you a thing or two about keeping it real. You learn to cut through the noise. Their conversation paused as a waitress refilled their coffee, her apron stained with grease, her smile warm. Ethan watched Maya thank her by name, Lila, another small gesture of connection that felt foreign yet comforting. You're good with people, he said. Everyone here seems to know you. It's home, Maya said. I've been coming to places like this my whole life. You build a community, you know? People look out for each other. She hesitated, then added, That's what I missed when I was in art school, trying to fit into that world. It was all about who you knew, not what you made. Felt like I was losing myself. Ethan tilted his head, intrigued. You're an artist? Used to be, she said, her voice tinged with regret. Still dabble, but it's just for me now. Bartending pays the bills, and I like it. Keeps me grounded. She glanced at him, a playful glint returning. What about you, Mr. Real Estate? Have you ever done anything just for you? He thought for a moment, realizing how rarely he did. Not lately. Work's been my life. Even this wedding was as much a business move as a personal one. Merging families, strengthening ties. Sounds cold when I say it out loud. Sounds honest, Maya corrected. That's a start. She checked her watch, then pushed her empty plate aside. It's late. I should head home. Are you okay? Or do I need to call you a cab? Ethan smiled, the first genuine one all night. I'm good, thanks to you. He paused, then added impulsively, Can I see you again? Not here, I mean. Maybe coffee or more pancakes? Maya raised an eyebrow, her expression skeptical but not unkind. You're fresh off a broken engagement, Ethan. I'm not here to be your rebound. But yeah, you know where to find me. She stood, tossing a few bills on the table despite his protest. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a new day. As she walked out, her silhouette framed against the diner's neon glow, Ethan felt a spark he hadn't expected, a mix of gratitude and curiosity, a pull toward the woman who'd seen him at his lowest and treated him like a person, not a headline. The pancake sat heavy in his stomach, but his heart felt lighter. For the first time since the cathedral, the future didn't seem so daunting. He paid the bill, left a generous tip for Lila, and stepped into the Brooklyn night, the promise of Maya's smile lingering like a beacon. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Ethan Caldwell's company apartment, a sleek, minimalist space in the heart of Manhattan. He sat on the edge of the bed, his phone buzzing relentlessly with notifications. Headlines screamed across the screen. Caldwell jilted at altar, Wentworth heiress flees, and society wedding implodes. What went wrong? Paparazzi photos captured his shell-shocked exit from St. Patrick's Cathedral, his mother's strained smile, and confused guests milling outside. Ethan's jaw tightened as he scrolled, each article a fresh jab at his pride. The gossip rags speculated wildly. Infidelity, a secret lover, a last-minute fight, none capturing the simple, brutal truth of Abigail's text. His phone rang, and his best friend Nathan's name flashed. "Are you finally awake?" Nathan asked when Ethan picked up. "Your mother's losing it. She's got a PR team drafting statements." "Where are you?" "My apartment at Caldwell Tower," Ethan said, rubbing his temple. "I needed space. Space is one thing, but the press is camped outside your penthouse. This story's everywhere. Your mother's line is that the wedding was postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. But the tabloids aren't buying it. They're offering big money for Abigail's side." Ethan sighed. "Any word from her?" "She was spotted at JFK, boarding a flight to Paris. Alone, as far as anyone knows." Nathan paused. "You okay, man?" "Not really," Ethan admitted, the memory of Maya's warm smile at the Starlight Diner flashing in his mind. "But I'll manage. Tell my mother I'll call her later." After a quick shower, Ethan dressed in a simple button-up and jeans, avoiding the tailored suits that marked him as the city's elite. The thought of facing his family's damage control or the pitying glances of colleagues was unbearable. Instead, he found himself driving back to Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Bridge, a threshold between his world and the one he'd glimpsed last night. With its neon sign and scuffed floors, O'Malley's bar was a refuge from the chaos. The bar was busier than the previous night, a Saturday evening crowd filling the tables with laughter and clinking glasses. Ethan scanned the room, his pulse quickening at the sight of Maya behind the bar, her movements fluid as she poured a draft beer. She caught his eye and raised an eyebrow, a teasing smile tugging at her lips. "Back so soon, wedding guy? Thought you'd be hiding in some fancy penthouse." Ethan slid onto a stool, the tension in his shoulders easing. "Couldn't stay away. Your scotch is better than my usual spots." "Flattery won't get you a free drink," Maya shot back, but her grin was warm. She slid a beer his way, unasked. Rough day? I saw the headlines. Your big news. He grimaced, taking a sip. Please don't remind me. My phone's been blowing up. My mother, brother, reporters. Everyone wants a piece of the story. Maya leaned against the counter, her gaze steady. Sounds like a lot. You holding up? Barely, he said, then hesitated. Last night, talking to you, the diner. It helped, more than I expected. Her smile softened. Good. You looked like you needed a friend. She nodded toward the bar, now buzzing with patrons. Stick around. My friends are coming by later. They're nosy, but they're good people. It might keep your mind off things. Ethan nodded, intrigued by the prospect of meeting Maya's circle. As the evening unfolded, the bar filled with a diverse crowd. Locals, artists, and workers unwinding after a long week. Maya moved through them with ease, her laughter and quick wit drawing smiles. Ethan watched, captivated by her ability to make everyone feel seen, from the grizzled truck driver to the young poet nursing a coffee. Her presence starkly contrasted with the calculated charm of his Manhattan acquaintances. Around 9, 3 new faces joined the bar. Tara, a social worker with bright red hair and a contagious laugh. Jamal, a lanky jazz musician with a quick grin. And Lena, a nurse whose sharp humor matched Maya's. Maya introduced Ethan simply as a new friend, sparing him the weight of his public humiliation. This is Ethan, she said, gesturing to him. He's slumming it with us tonight. Slumming, huh? Tara teased, eyeing his designer jeans. You sure you can handle Brooklyn? I'm learning, Ethan replied, raising his beer. The group settled at a corner table, and the conversation flowed easily. Music, local gossip, a heated debate about the best pizza joint in the borough. Ethan felt out of place yet welcomed, their warmth a balm to the cold scrutiny of his world. Tara shared a story about a client's triumph, Jamal riffed on his latest gig, and Lena roasted Maya for her terrible taste in rom-coms. Ethan laughed, genuinely, for the first time in days. Maya, sitting across from him, caught his eye during a lull. You're quiet, she said softly. You okay over there? Just taking it in, Ethan said. This is different. Good different. My friends don't talk like this. No agendas, no posturing. It's refreshing. Jamal grinned. That's Brooklyn for you. We keep it real. Right, Maya? Always, she said, her eyes meeting Ethan's with a warmth that made his chest tighten. He noticed how the group orbited around her, her quiet strength anchoring their bond. She wasn't just a bartender, but a pillar of this community, her presence tying together this eclectic mix of lives. As the night wore on, Ethan relaxed, the headlines and his family's expectations fading into the background. He shared a story about a disastrous property deal, earning laughs when he admitted to misjudging a client's taste for neon green decor. Maya's laughter was the loudest, her eyes crinkling with delight. You're telling me you built half of Manhattan and you okayed neon green? She teased. Hey, I fixed it, Ethan shot back, grinning. Eventually. When Tara suggested a round of pool, Ethan declined, content to watch from the bar. Maya stayed behind, wiping down the counter during a quiet moment. Your friends are great, Ethan said. You've got something special here. They're family, Maya said. We've been through a lot together. Breakups, job losses, you name it. They're my rock. She paused, her gaze softening. You could use some of that. People who see you, not your last name. Ethan nodded, her words echoing his thoughts from the diner. I'm starting to see that. Thanks for letting me crash your night. Anytime, she said, then smirked. But don't think you're one of us yet. You've got to earn your Brooklyn stripes." He laughed, raising his beer. Challenge accepted. Ethan felt a shift as the bar's neon lights flickered and the jukebox played on. Maya's raw, vibrant, unpretentious world pulled him in, offering a glimpse of something he'd never known he needed. The media storm awaited him in Manhattan, but with Maya's laughter and her friends' easy camaraderie, he felt a spark of possibility, a chance to redefine himself beyond the wreckage of his wedding day. The Manhattan skyline loomed outside Ethan Caldwell's office window, its glass towers gleaming under the midday sun. Inside the sleek headquarters of Caldwell Enterprises, Ethan sat at his mahogany desk, a stack of contracts before him. The numbers blurred as his mind wandered, not to the high-rise deals that had defined his career, but to the laughter and warmth of O'Malley's bar the previous night. Maya's teasing grin, her friends' easy banter, the unpolished vitality of Brooklyn. It all felt like a world he'd been missing without knowing it. His phone buzzed with another text from his mother, Charlotte, urging him to approve a press statement about the postponed wedding. He ignored it, his thoughts anchored elsewhere. Ethan leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking softly. For years, he'd thrived on control. Meticulous plans, strategic alliances, a life curated to meet his family's expectations. The wedding to Abigail had been the ultimate merger, a union of wealth and status to solidify the Caldwell legacy. Yet, as he stared at the framed photo of a ribbon-cutting ceremony on his desk, he felt hollow. The man in the picture seemed a stranger, smiling in a tailored suit. Had he ever asked himself what he wanted, beyond the applause of boardrooms and society pages? Maya's question from the diner echoed, "Ever stop to ask what you wanted?" He pulled out his phone, thumbing through his messages until he found the one he'd sent Maya that morning. A light-hearted quip about the diner's pancakes being better than his chef's gourmet breakfast. Her reply had been quick, playful. "Pancakes beat caviar any day. Don't go soft on me, Manhattan." He smiled, the knot in his chest loosening. Her unfiltered and warm words were a lifeline in the storm of his unraveling life. Needing air, Ethan left the office early, a rarity that drew raised eyebrows from his assistant. He drove to Brooklyn, drawn not to O'Malley's, but to a street market Maya had mentioned, where vendors lined a bustling block near Prospect Park. The air hummed with life, salsa music from a nearby speaker, the scent of jerk chicken and fresh bread, and children darting through the crowd. Ethan wandered the stalls, his jeans and casual sweater blending in better than his tuxedo hat at the bar. He paused at a stand selling handmade jewelry, watching a vendor haggle with a customer in good-natured banter. The scene felt vibrant, alive in a way his polished world never did. Maya's text mentioned she'd be helping a friend with a stall. Ethan spotted her near a table piled with colorful scarves, laughing as she draped one over a customer's shoulders. Her ease with people, strangers, neighbors, friends, was magnetic, her smile bright against the market's kaleidoscope of colors. She saw him and waved, her surprise evident. "Ethan? What are you doing here? Don't tell me you're shopping for veggies. Thought I'd check out your world," he said, approaching her stall. "You weren't kidding about this place. It's lively." "That's one word for it," Maya said, handing a scarf to a customer before returning to him. "Come on, I'm on a break. Let's walk." She led him through the market, pointing out her favorite vendors, a baker with the best cornbread, a painter whose murals adorned local shops. Her pride in her community was palpable, and each greeting she exchanged was warm and genuine. "You know everyone here," Ethan observed, watching her high-five a fruit vendor. "Grew up a few blocks away," she said. "This is home. These folks, they're not just neighbors, they're family. When my mom was sick, they showed up with meals, rides to the hospital, whatever we needed." Her voice softened. That's what keeps me here, you know? It's not just a place. People who've got your back. Ethan nodded, a pang of envy stirring. His world was one of connections, not community. Handshakes sealed deals, not bonds. I don't have that, he admitted. My life's been about building towers, deals, and a name. But it's lonely up there. I didn't realize how much until... He trailed off, gesturing vaguely until this. Maya glanced at him, her gaze searching. Sounds like you're waking up, Ethan. Question is, what are you gonna do about it? He didn't have an answer, but her words sparked something. A desire to shed the weight of expectations, to find something real. They stopped at a coffee cart, and Maya ordered 2 cups, handing him one with a grin. For me. Please don't get used to it. As they sipped, she led him to a bench overlooking the park, where kids played soccer and couples strolled. The normalcy of it struck him. No photographers, no agendas, just life unfolding. I've been thinking about what you said, Ethan began, his voice low about living for other people's expectations. I built my whole life around my parents, company, and Abigail. I thought it was what I wanted, but now I'm unsure I even know who I am without it. Maya tilted her head, her expression soft but unflinching. The hard part is figuring out who you are when the script gets torn up. But it's also the best part. You get to write a new one. She paused, sipping her coffee. When I left art school, I felt lost. I'd planned to be this big-shot painter, but life had other ideas. Took me a while to realize I could still be me, just a different version. Ethan looked at her, the sincerity in her eyes pulling him in. How'd you do it? Find that version of yourself? Trial and error, she said with a shrug. And good people. My friends, this place. They remind me who I am. You need that too. People who see you, not the guy in the headlines. He nodded, her words resonating. I'm starting to see that. Last night, with your friends. I haven't laughed like that in years. It felt good, real. Maya's smile was warm, but her tone held a playful challenge. Careful, Ethan. You keep hanging around Brooklyn, you might start liking it. Maybe I already do, he said, meeting her gaze. The air between them shifted, a spark of something unspoken. He wanted to say more, to tell her how her presence made him feel alive in a way he hadn't in years. But his phone buzzed, shattering the moment. His brother Liam's name flashed, a reminder of the world waiting to pull him back. Don't answer it, Maya said, half teasing. Let Manhattan wait for once. Ethan hesitated, then silenced the call. Good advice. He leaned back, the coffee warm in his hands, the park's energy humming around them. For the first time, he felt the stirrings of a new path, not dictated by his family or past. Maya's laughter, as she pointed out a dog chasing its tail in the grass, deepened that feeling. He wasn't sure where this was leading, but with her beside him, the uncertainty felt less like a void and more like a possibility. The Caldwell family estate loomed like a fortress in the Westchester suburbs, its manicured lawns and stone facade a testament to old money and unyielding tradition. Ethan Caldwell sat in the dining room, picking at a slice of quiche as his mother, Charlotte, outlined her plan to salvage his reputation after Abigail's wedding day betrayal. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, glinting off crystal stemware, but the air felt heavy with expectation. His father, Richard, sipped coffee at the head of the table, while his younger brother, Liam, smirked from across the room, a mimosa in hand. Ethan, you must attend the Hamilton Foundation Gala next weekend, Charlotte said, her silver hair immaculate, her tone brooking no argument. The Andersons will be there, and they're key investors for the Chicago project. We need to show the world you're unshaken by this unfortunate event. Ethan's jaw tightened. Unfortunate event was his mother's euphemism for the public humiliation that still stung. A cathedral full of whispers. Abigail's text burning in his mind. "I'm not sure I'm up for a gala, Mother," he said, his voice measured. "I need time." "Time?" Charlotte's eyebrows arched. "It's been 2 days, Ethan. The press is relentless. We've issued a statement. Postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. But you must be seen, confident and composed. The Caldwell name depends on it." Liam leaned forward, his grin sharp. "Yeah, big brother, you can't hide forever. Find a new socialite to parade around. That'll shut up the gossip columns." Ethan shot him a warning look. "I'm not interested in parading anyone." His thoughts drifted to Maya, her warm laugh at the Brooklyn street market, the ease of her world compared to this stifling room. He hadn't planned to mention her, but the word slipped out. "I've been spending time in Brooklyn and made some new friends." Charlotte's fork paused midair. "Brooklyn? Friends?" Her tone dripped with skepticism, as if the borough were another planet. "What kind of friends, Ethan?" He hesitated, sensing the trap, but pressed on. "One of them is Maya. She's a bartender at O'Malley's. She's different, real, not like the people in our circle." A tense silence fell. Richard set down his coffee, his gaze assessing. "A bartender," he repeated, the word flat but loaded. "How industrious." Charlotte's smile was tight, her eyes narrowing. "Ethan, darling, I understand you're upset about Abigail, but spending time with a bartender from Brooklyn, that's hardly appropriate. You have responsibilities, to this family, to the company. People will talk." "They're already talking," Ethan said, his voice rising. "And Maya's not just a bartender. She's smart, kind, and talented. She's not after my money or my name, which is more than I can say for most people." He caught himself, lowering his tone. "She helped me through the worst night of my life." "That means something." Charlotte's expression hardened, her voice dropping to a cold whisper. "You're a Caldwell, Ethan. You don't fraternize with service workers. It's beneath you." The words carried an unspoken edge, a hint of judgment that went beyond class. Ethan's stomach churned, and she recognized the subtle prejudice in her tone and the assumption that Maya didn't belong in their world, not just because of her job, but because of who she was. He leaned forward, his hands gripping the table. "Beneath me? Maya's more genuine than anyone at your galas. You don't know her, Mother. You don't get to judge her." Richard cleared his throat, his voice calm but firm. "Enough, Ethan. Your mother's concerned about appearances. The business depends on our reputation. This distraction could complicate things." "It's not a distraction," Ethan snapped, then caught himself. He stood, pushing back his chair. "I need some air." He strode out, leaving the quiche untouched, the weight of his family's expectations pressing down like a vice. Back in Brooklyn that evening, Ethan found himself at O'Malley's, the bar's familiar hum a balm to his frayed nerves. Maya was behind the counter, her dark curls pulled back, her smile bright as she served a regular. When she saw Ethan, her expression shifted to concern. "You look like you just went 10 rounds with a boardroom. Everything okay?" He slid onto a stool, exhaling heavily. "Family brunch. It didn't go well." He hesitated, then recounted the conversation, leaving out the harshest of Charlotte's words. "They think I should be at some gala, pretending nothing happened. They don't get why I'd rather be here." Maya leaned against the counter, her gaze steady. "Sounds like they're more worried about the Caldwell brand than you. Families like that, they're married to the image." She paused, wiping a glass. "My mom dealt with that kind of judgment too, working nights as a nurse, raising my child alone. People looked down on her because she wasn't some high-powered exec. But she taught me to hold my head high, no matter what anyone thinks. Ethan nodded, her words resonating. My mother, she said you're beneath me. It's not just about your job. It's everything. He faltered, unsure how to broach the topic. I think she meant more than class. Maya's eyes darkened, but her voice remained steady. You mean because I'm black? It wasn't a question. She set the glass down, her movements deliberate. I've dealt with that my whole life, Ethan. The looks, the assumptions, the you don't belong here vibes. Art school was the worst. Professors thought my work was too urban to be serious. I learned to tune it out, but it still stings. I'm sorry, Ethan said, his voice thick. I didn't know how to call it out, but I should have. I told her she was wrong, that you're worth more than her approval. Maya's smile was slight but genuine. Thanks for that. But it's not just your mom. It's your whole world. Those galas, those boardrooms. I've been in rooms like that, trying to fit in. It's exhausting, pretending to be something I'm not. She leaned closer, her voice soft but firm. You need to think about what you're signing up for, Ethan. Our worlds don't mix easily. He met her gaze, the weight of her words settling in. I know, but I'm here, aren't I? I'd rather be in your world than theirs right now. She studied him, then nodded. Fair enough. But it's not just about tonight. You've got a lot to figure out. A customer called her name, and she pushed off the counter. Stick around. I'm off in an hour. We can talk more. Ethan watched her work, her ease with the crowd starkly contrasting with the cold formality of his family's brunch. The bar's warmth, the clink of glasses, Maya's quiet strength. It all pulled him deeper into a world that felt more real than the one he'd built. His phone buzzed again, Charlotte's name flashing, but he silenced it. For the first time, he wasn't running from his pain, but towards something new, something that felt like truth. Yet Maya's warning lingered, a reminder that the divide between their worlds was real, and crossing it would come at a cost. The Brooklyn dusk painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, as Ethan Caldwell climbed the steps of a weathered brownstone, his heart thudding with curiosity and anticipation. Maya Johnson had invited him to her apartment for dinner, a gesture that felt both casual and significant after their recent conversations. The memory of his family's disapproval at the Westchester brunch lingered, but so did Maya's words at O'Malley's, her unflinching honesty about navigating prejudice, her quiet strength. Ethan knocked, the chipped paint on the door starkly contrasting the polished elegance of his Manhattan penthouse. Maya opened the door, her dark curls loose around her shoulders, a flour-dusted apron over her jeans and t-shirt. You're early, she said, a teasing smile softening her words. Hope you're ready for my world-famous spaghetti. Come in. The apartment was small but vibrant, a one-bedroom bursting with color. Mismatched furniture. A teal sofa and a bright yellow wooden chair filled the living room, where a shelf held books on art and novels dog-eared from use. But what caught Ethan's eye were the paintings lining the walls. Vivid cityscapes of Brooklyn's streets, abstract swirls of color, and intimate portraits that seemed to pulse with life. These are yours? He asked, stepping closer to a canvas of a bustling market, its figures rendered with bold, expressive strokes. Yeah, Maya said, her voice quieter now, and almost shy. Most of them. I've been painting since I was a kid, but these are recent. Just for me, though. No galleries or anything. She turned toward the kitchen, gesturing for him to follow. Dinner's almost ready. Make yourself at home. Ethan lingered, drawn to a portrait of an older woman with kind eyes, her face etched with resilience. This one's incredible, he said, his voice soft. Who is she? Maya glanced back, her expression flickering with emotion. My mom painted that after she passed. It's how I remember her. She busied herself with stirring a pot of sauce, her movements deliberate. She was my biggest cheerleader. Always said my art was my voice, even when I doubted it. Ethan joined her in the tiny kitchen, the scent of garlic and tomatoes filling the air. She was right. These are gallery-worthy, Maya. Why keep them hidden? She hesitated, setting down the spoon. It isn't very easy. I went to art school and dreamed of becoming the next Basquiat. But then Mom got sick, and I dropped out to care for her. After she was gone, I tried returning. But the art world, it's brutal. One professor told me my work was too urban, code for not fitting their idea of serious art. It crushed me. I stopped showing my stuff to anyone. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed a lingering hurt. Ethan leaned against the counter, his chest tightening. That's their loss, not yours. Your paintings, they're alive, real. They've got more heart than anything I've seen in Manhattan galleries. Maya's smile was slight, but grateful. Thanks. I still paint, but it's for me now. Keeps me sane, you know? Bartending's my job, but this, she gestured to the walls. This is who I am. He nodded, her vulnerability pulling him closer. I get that. I've spent my life building towers and deals, but it's all for others. Your art, it's yours. That's rare. She looked at him, her gaze searching. You're starting to sound like you're questioning that life of yours, Ethan. What's going on in that head? He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. A lot. That brunch with my family. They made it clear they think I'm slumming it with you. It's not just about your job. It's everything. The way they see the world and who they think belongs in it. It made me realize how much I've let their expectations shape me. I don't want that anymore. Maya nodded, her expression softening. That's a big step, admitting that, changing your whole world. That's not easy. I've been there, trying to fit into places that didn't want me. It's a fight. How'd you keep going? He asked, genuinely curious. After art school, after losing your mom? She stirred the sauce, her voice thoughtful. Mom used to say, you don't need their approval to be you. I leaned on my friends, Lena, Tara, and Jamal. They reminded me who I was when I forgot. And painting, it's my way of holding on to her, onto myself. She met his eyes, a spark of defiance in her gaze. You've got to find that for yourself, Ethan. Something that's yours, not your family's. Her words hit like a quiet revelation. Ethan thought of his life, boardrooms, galas, a wedding planned for optics rather than love. What was his? The question gnawed at him, but Maya's presence, her unapologetic authenticity, felt like an answer forming. They sat down to dinner at a small table, the spaghetti simple but rich, paired with a bottle of cheap red wine. The conversation flowed. Stories of Maya's childhood pranks, Ethan's disastrous first real estate pitch, their laughter filling the cozy space. As they cleared the plates, Maya led him to a corner of the living room she called her studio, where an easel held a half-finished painting of a Brooklyn stoop at dusk. Ethan said you should show these, Maya, his voice earnest, not for the art world snobs, but for people who'd get it. Your work deserves to be seen. She shook her head, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Maybe someday. Right now, it's enough that you see it. She paused, her eyes meeting his with a warmth that quickened his pulse. Thanks for not pushing. Most people would. He said, I'm not most people, half teasing, but the truth hung between them. He wanted to know her, not just the bartender who'd pulled him from his lowest moment, but the woman whose art and resilience spoke to something deep within him. Maya stepped closer, her voice soft. Your trouble, Ethan Caldwell. Showing up here, making me like you more than I planned. Her tone was playful, but her eyes held a flicker of caution. You're still figuring yourself out. Don't drag me into that mess too fast, okay? He nodded, respecting her boundary, though his heart ached to close the distance. Fair enough. But I'm not going anywhere. He reached out, brushing a stray curl from her face, the gesture tentative but charged. She smiled, stepping back. Good. Now help me with these dishes, Manhattan. You're not too fancy for soap, are you? As they washed plates side by side, the clinking of dishes mingling with their quiet laughter, Ethan felt a shift. Maya's apartment, her art, her unguarded honesty, a world he wanted to be part of, not as an escape, but as a home. The pull of his family's expectations weighted beyond these walls. But here, with paint smudges on Maya's fingers and her voice filling the air, he glimpsed a life that could be his, if he was brave enough to claim it. The ballroom of the Hamilton Foundation Gala sparkled with opulence, its chandeliers casting prisms of light across gilded walls. Ethan Caldwell moved through the crowd, his tuxedo impeccable, his smile practiced but strained. The air buzzed with the clink of champagne flutes and the murmur of Manhattan's elite. Bankers, philanthropists, and socialites draped in designer gowns. A week had passed since his tense brunch with his family, and the headlines about Abigail's wedding day betrayal had faded, replaced by fresher scandals. Yet, the weight of his mother's expectations to appear unshaken and secure investors pressed heavily on Ethan's shoulders. He nodded politely at a tech mogul's greeting, deflecting questions about his postponed nuptials with vague assurances. His mother, Charlotte, stood across the room, her silver gown gleaming as she held court with potential investors for Caldwell Enterprises' Chicago project. Ethan's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Maya. How's the fancy party? Any swans on dresses yet? He smiled, remembering her teasing grin at O'Malley's grounding him in this sea of artifice. Before he could reply, a familiar voice cut through the din. Ethan, darling. Cecilia Wentworth, Abigail's best friend and maid of honor, air-kissed his cheeks, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. You look marvelous. How are you holding up after everything? I'm fine, Cecilia, Ethan said, his tone neutral. Just focusing on work. Oh, of course, she said, her smile too bright. But you must be devastated. Abigail's been so mysterious about it all. Have you spoken to her? Her words dripped with the thrill of being close to gossip, and Ethan felt a familiar claustrophobia, the sense of being a character in someone else's narrative. Not recently, he said, his voice clipped. Excuse me, I see my mother signaling. It was a lie, but he moved away, weaving through the crowd to avoid further probing. He ordered sparkling water at the bar, which needed clarity more than liquor. The gala felt like a performance, every smile and handshake calculated. He thought of Maya's apartment, her vibrant paintings, the warmth of her laughter over spaghetti. That world felt more real than this one. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Maya. Bet you're missing pancakes right about now. Ethan's fingers hovered over the keyboard, a sudden urge pulling him. He typed, You're not wrong. Starlight Diner in 30? He hit send before he could second-guess himself, his heart racing with the boldness of the choice. As he pocketed his phone, he caught sight of his mother gesturing to him toward a group of investors. He started toward her, then stopped. The memory of her cold words at brunch, beneath you, echoed, alongside Maya's challenge to find his path. He turned, striding toward the exit, loosening his bow tie. Outside, the cool night air hit him like a revelation. He handed his ticket to the valet, the decision settling in his bones. He didn't want to be here, playing the role of the unshaken heir. He wanted pancakes, honesty, Maya. 30 minutes later, Ethan slid into a booth at the Starlight Diner. The neon glow and scent of coffee, a welcome contrast to the gala's sterile grandeur. Maya arrived moments later, her bartender's uniform swapped for jeans and a faded band t-shirt, her curls loose. "You left," she said, sliding across from him, her eyes vast with surprise. "I was half kidding about the pancakes." "I wasn't," Ethan said, grinning. "That gala, it's not where I want to be. Not anymore." He paused, meeting her gaze. "I'd rather be here, with you." Maya's smile was cautious, her fingers tracing the edge of the menu. "That's sweet, Ethan. But you're dodging a whole world. Investors, your family, all that. You sure you're ready to walk away from it?" "I'm not walking away from my work," he said, his voice firm. "I'm good at it, and it matters. But the rest? The galas, the social games. I'm done living for that. You showed me something else, Maya. Something real." She leaned back, her expression a mix of warmth and wariness. "You're making me nervous, Ethan. This..." She gestured between them. "It's starting to feel like more than just friends grabbing pancakes. And I'm scared. Our worlds are so different. I don't know if I can fit into yours." Ethan reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers, but not touching. "I don't want you to fit into my world. I want to build something new, with you. I know it's fast, and I'm a mess, but I feel more myself with you than I ever did in that ballroom." Maya's eyes softened, but her voice held a tremor. "I've tried crossing worlds before, Ethan. There was this guy in art school. I thought he was different, but he couldn't handle the looks we got, or the whispers about me not belonging. It hurt, and I've spent years building walls to avoid that kind of pain again." Ethan's chest tightened, her vulnerability cutting through him. "I'm not him," he said softly. "I don't care about the whispers. I care about you, your laugh, your art, how you call me out. I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking for a chance to figure this out together." She studied him, her gaze searching for any hint of doubt. "You're making it hard to say no," she said, a small smile breaking through. "But we need to go slow. I need to know this is real, not just you running from what happened with Abigail." "Slow works," Ethan said, his voice earnest, "as long as it's with you." The waitress, Lila, arrived with a plate of blueberry pancakes, her grin warm as she set it between them. "You two look like you're solving world peace," she teased, refilling their coffee. Maya laughed, the sound easing the tension. She said she was trying to keep this guy from returning to his fancy life, nudging the pancakes toward Ethan. "Eat. You'll need your strength for this whole finding yourself thing." As they shared the pancakes, their conversation shifted to lighter topics. Maya's worst bar customer, Ethan's failed attempt at cooking pasta, but the weight of their earlier words lingered, a promise of something more profound. Ethan felt a shift, not just in his feelings for Maya, but in himself. Leaving the gala wasn't just an escape. It was a choice to prioritize what felt true. Yet, as Maya's laughter filled the diner, he knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. His family and world would push back, and Maya's fears were real. But for the first time, he was ready to fight for something that wasn't on a contract or society page. The Singapore skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the conference room, its towering spires a mirror to Ethan Caldwell's world of ambition and precision. He sat at a polished table, surrounded by investors in crisp suits, discussing the final terms of Caldwell Enterprises' latest high-rise project. His mind, however, was elsewhere, on Maya Johnson, her laughter at the Starlight Diner, the cautious hope in her eyes when he'd left the gala to join her. 3 days into his 2-week business trip, Ethan keenly felt the distance between them. Each unanswered text, a slight ache. He'd sent her updates about Singapore's humid nights and quirky street food, but her replies were brief, polite, lacking their usual spark. His assistant slid him a note mid-meeting. Urgent call from Liam. Excusing himself, Ethan stepped into the hallway, the hum of air conditioning a stark contrast to Brooklyn's lively buzz. He dialed his brother, bracing for another family demand. "What's going on, Liam?" "Abigail's back," Liam said without preamble, his voice tinged with amusement. "I showed up at Mother's charity luncheon today. All apologies and charm. She's asking about you, saying she made a mistake. Mother invited her to dinner tonight to discuss things." Ethan's grip tightened on the phone, a strange detachment settling over him. Abigail's return felt like a distant echo, not the raw wound it might have been weeks ago. "There's nothing to discuss," he said firmly. "She made her choice. I've moved on." "With the bartender?" Liam's tone was skeptical, teasing. "Mother's not thrilled, you know. She thinks Abigail's your ticket back to respectability." "Her name's Maya," Ethan snapped, irritation flaring. "And I don't care what Mother thinks. Tell her I'm done with her matchmaking." He ended the call, his pulse racing. Needing to ground himself, he texted Maya. "Abigail's back in town, stirring things up with my family. Just wanted you to know it's nothing to me. You're what matters. Call me?" Hours passed with no reply. Ethan's meetings dragged on, but his focus frayed, his phone silent. By evening, worry gnawed at him. He called Maya, only to be met with a voicemail. "Maya, it's me," he said, his voice low. "I sent you a text about Abigail. I need you to know it's you I want. Call me when you can." He hung up, the silence heavier than Singapore's humid air. The next morning, still no response. Ethan's unease grew, his mind replaying their last conversation at the diner, her caution about their different worlds, her fear of being hurt again. Had his text about Abigail triggered those fears? He opened his laptop, scanning social media for clues, and froze. A gossip blog had posted photos from his mother's luncheon. Abigail, radiant in a tailored dress, smiling beside Charlotte, their heads bent close. Another showed Abigail hugging Liam, the caption speculating about a Caldwell-Wentworth reconciliation. The images were damning, a polished narrative that erased Ethan's new reality. Panic surged. Maya must have seen these, misreading them as proof he was slipping back into his old life. He called again and then texted Maya. "Those photos are not what they seem. I'm in Singapore, not with Abigail. Please talk to me." Still nothing. Desperate, he dialed Jamal, Maya's musician friend, whose number he'd gotten after a night at O'Malley's. "Hey, Ethan," Jamal answered, his voice cautious. "Singapore treating you okay?" "It's fine," Ethan said, cutting to the chase. "Have you seen Maya? She's not answering my calls or texts. I'm worried." Jamal hesitated, then sighed. "Yeah, she was at O'Malley's last night, working the bar. Seemed off, distracted. She mentioned your text about Abigail, and then saw those photos online. Said something about not wanting to be your in-between until you go back to your real life." Ethan's heart sank. "That's not true, Jamal. Abigail means nothing to me. Those photos. My family set that up, not me. I need to talk to her." "She's hurting, man," Jamal said. "Maya's tough, but she's been burned before. She's not great at confronting stuff like this. She pulls back instead. She's staying at Lena's place, trying to clear her head." "Can you tell her to call me?" Ethan asked, his voice urgent. "Tell her it's a misunderstanding. I'm coming back early." Jamal paused. "I'll try." But she's stubborn when she's like this. You should show up in person. Ethan ended the call, his mind racing. The Singapore deal was critical. Millions in investments, months of negotiations. But none mattered if he lost Maya. He called his assistant, his voice steady, despite his churning emotions. Reschedule my meetings. I'm flying back to New York tomorrow. Tomorrow? She said, startled. But the investors... They'll wait, Ethan interrupted. This is more important. He hung up, staring out at the city's lights. For years, he'd prioritized contracts over everything else, letting his family's expectations dictate his life. But Maya, her honesty, warmth, the way she saw him, was worth more than any deal. He'd built an empire on calculated risks, but this was different. This was a leap, one he had to take. As he packed his suitcase, memories of Maya flooded him, her laughter over pancakes, the vulnerability in her eyes when she showed him her paintings, the way she'd challenged him to find himself. He'd meant what he'd said. He was done with his old world's games. But Maya's silence spoke of deeper fears tied to their divides. The photos had painted a picture of a life he no longer wanted, but convincing her would take more than words. He needed to show her, in person, that his choice was real. Boarding the plane the next morning, Ethan felt a mix of exhaustion and resolve. The 20-hour flight stretched ahead, but his focus was singular. Get to Maya. Fix this. He drafted a message, hesitating before sending. I'm coming back, Maya. I need you to know you're not my in-between. You're my everything. Please, give me a chance to prove it. He hit send, the words a vow as much to himself as to her. In the quiet hum of the plane, Ethan closed his eyes, the weight of his decision settling. He was leaving behind more than a business trip. He was stepping away from the life he'd known, toward one that felt uncertain but true. The thought of Maya's guarded smile, her strength, and doubt fueled him. He only hoped he wasn't too late to bridge the distance his world had created. The fluorescent lights of JFK Airport buzzed overhead as Ethan Caldwell cleared customs, his suitcase trailing behind him. Exhaustion from the 20-hour flight from Singapore weighed on him, but his focus was razor-sharp. Find Maya. Fix the misunderstanding that had silenced her. The gossip blog photos, Abigail at his mother's luncheon, smiling with Charlotte and Liam, had painted a false picture of reconciliation. Maya's lack of response to his texts and calls told him she'd seen them. His heart pounded with urgency as he stepped into the arrivals hall, the chaos of New York a stark contrast to Singapore's sleek order. He rechecked his phone, but there was no reply to his last message. I'm coming back, Maya. You're not my in-between. You're my everything. It was just after 7 p.m., and O'Malley's would be busy. Ethan signaled his driver, who waited curbside, but shook his head at the offer to go home. Take me to O'Malley's bar in Brooklyn, he said, his voice firm. The city's lights blurred past as they crossed the bridge, each mile tightening the knot in his chest. He needed to see Maya, to prove his world wasn't pulling him back. O'Malley's was alive with Friday night energy, the jukebox blaring a soulful tune, patrons laughing over beers. Ethan scanned the bar, hoping to spot Maya's familiar curls behind the counter, but instead saw Mike, the gruff bartender, mixing drinks. Ethan approached, his pulse racing. Mike, is Maya working tonight? Mike's eyes narrowed, assessing him. She took a few days off, said she needed space. His tone was protective, a warning. You're the guy from the wedding mess. What's this about? There's been a misunderstanding, Ethan said, his voice urgent. I need to talk to her. Do you know where she is? Mike studied him, then sighed, grabbing a napkin and scribbling an address. She's at Lena's place in Williamsburg. Don't make me regret this, man. Maya's my friend, and she's been through enough. Ethan nodded, gratitude mixing with resolve. I won't. Thanks, Mike. 20 minutes later, he stood outside a weathered walk-up, the address scrawled on the napkin clutched in his hand. He pressed the buzzer for Lena's apartment, heart pounding. After a long pause, Lena's voice crackled through the intercom. Who's this? It's Ethan, he said. I need to see Maya. Please, it's essential. Another pause, then a sigh. She doesn't want to see you, Ethan. She's upset. I know, he said, not caring that his voice broke. I need 5 minutes to explain. Please, Lena. The buzzer sounded, and Ethan rushed inside, taking the stairs 2 at a time. Lena met him at the door of apartment 3B, arms crossed, her expression wary. She's in the living room, Lena said, stepping aside. Don't make this worse. She retreated to her bedroom, leaving Ethan alone, facing the small, cozy apartment. Maya sat curled on a couch, wearing sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, her hair in a messy ponytail. Her eyes widened at seeing him, a mix of surprise and hurt flashing across her face. Ethan? You're supposed to be in Singapore. I came back early, he said, crossing the room to sit on the edge of a coffee table across from her. For you. Maya, you haven't answered my calls or texts. I know you saw those photos of Abigail with my family. It's not what you think. She looked away, her voice flat. It seemed pretty straightforward. Your ex, cozying up with your mom, hugging your brother. Everyone is saying you two are getting back together. I'm not here to be your placeholder, Ethan, until you return to that life. You're not a placeholder, he said, his voice fierce. Those photos. My family set that up. I was in Singapore when Abigail showed up. I had no idea until Liam called, and I texted you immediately. I don't want her, Maya. I never will. She met his gaze, her eyes searching. You say that now, but your world, it's pulling you back. Those photos prove what I've been afraid of. I don't fit there, Ethan. I tried to do this with someone else years ago. He was from a world like yours. Fancy dinners, big expectations. The whispers, the looks, they wore me down. I swore I'd never let myself feel that small again. Ethan's chest ached, her pain cutting deeper than his own. I'm not him, he said softly. I know my world's a mess. My family, the gossip, all of it. But I'm choosing you, Maya. Not because you're an escape, but because you're real. You see me, not the Caldwell name. I've never felt this before. This alive. This right. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but her voice held steady. You were ready to marry her a month ago, Ethan. Your life was built around that world. Galas, deals, the right people. How do I know this isn't just you running from that pain? He leaned forward, his hands clasped to keep from reaching for her. Because I'm not running. I'm standing here, telling you I love you. I didn't plan this. The timing's awful, but it's true. I love your honesty, how you challenge me, and how you make everyone around you feel seen. I love that you're scared to trust me, because it means you care enough to be hurt. A tear slipped down Maya's cheek, and she swiped it away, a shaky laugh escaping. You're not supposed to make crying sound romantic, Ethan. She took a deep breath, her gaze locking with his. I love you too, and it terrifies me. I've spent years protecting myself from this, loving someone who might not stay, who might realize I don't belong in their world. You belong with me, Ethan said, his voice breaking. Not in my family's world, not in Manhattan's games. With me, wherever we make that. I'll fight for it, Maya, every day. He reached for her hand, and this time she let him, her fingers warm in his. She studied him, her guard softening. Okay, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll give us a chance, a real one. but we go slow, and we're honest about everything. No hiding, no pretending. Slow and honest, Ethan agreed, a surge of joy flooding him. He moved to the couch, pulling her into his arms. She fit against him perfectly, her head resting on his chest. Their first kiss was tentative, deepened, a quiet promise of trust and hope. When they pulled apart, Maya's eyes shone, a mix of fear and warmth. "You flew halfway across the world for this?" she asked, a teasing lilt returning. "You're crazier than I thought." "For you?" "Worth it," Ethan said, smiling. "But don't get used to the jet lag." They stayed on the couch, talking late into the night, their words weaving a fragile bridge over the divide of their worlds. Ethan knew the challenges ahead, his family's disapproval, the pull of his old life. But in Maya's arms, he felt sure of one thing. This was the life he wanted, and he'd do whatever it took to keep it. The Caldwell estate sprawled across Westchester's rolling hills, its stone facade glowing under the evening sky. Ethan Caldwell gripped the steering wheel as he pulled through the iron gates, Maya Johnson beside him in the passenger seat. Her navy blue dress hugged her frame, simple yet elegant. But her fingers fidgeted with the hem, betraying her nerves. A week had passed since their reconciliation at Lena's apartment, their first kiss sealing a fragile promise to face their challenges together. Charlotte Caldwell's birthday dinner, a family tradition, would test that promise tonight. Ethan glanced at Maya, offering a reassuring smile. "You ready?" Maya squared her shoulders, her lips curving in a determined grin as I'll ever be. "I deal with drunk Wall Street guys every weekend. I can handle your family." Her bravado was playful, but her eyes held a flicker of apprehension. "If your mom hates me, though, I'm blaming you." "She won't hate you," Ethan said, though his stomach nodded. "And if she does, it doesn't change us." He reached for her hand, squeezing gently as they exited the car. The grand foyer gleamed with polished marble and fresh flowers, a maid taking their coats with a polite nod. Voices drifted from the formal living room, where guests mingled over pre-dinner drinks. Ethan guided Maya inside, his hand at the small of her back. Richard's father stood by the fireplace, conversing with a business associate. His brother Liam lounged on a sofa, a whiskey in hand. Charlotte held court in the center, her emerald gown regal, her smile practiced. She turned as they entered, her expression faltering slightly at the sight of Maya. "Mother," Ethan said, stepping forward. "Happy birthday." He gestured to Maya. "This is Maya Johnson. Maya, my mother, Charlotte Caldwell." Maya extended her hand, her voice steady. "It's a pleasure, Mrs. Caldwell. Happy birthday." Charlotte took her hand briefly, her smile tight. "How kind of you to join us, Miss Johnson." Her tone was polite but calm, her eyes assessing. "Richard, meet Ethan's friend." Richard approached, his gaze sharp. "Miss Johnson," he said, nodding. "What do you do?" "I'm a bartender at O'Malley's in Brooklyn," Maya replied, her chin lifting. "And I paint, primarily for myself, but it's my passion." "A bartender," Richard echoed, his tone neutral but heavy with implication. "And an artist. How eclectic." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Maya's incredibly talented," he said, his voice firm. "Her work's better than anything in your gallery, Mother." He met Charlotte's gaze, daring her to challenge him. Before she could respond, Liam sauntered, a smirk on his lips. "So, you're the famous Maya. I'm Liam, the fun brother. Ethan's told me you're shaking up his world." His tone was light, but his eyes flicked to Charlotte, gauging her reaction. Maya smiled, unfazed. "Nice to meet you, Liam. I hear you're the one causing trouble." Her quip drew a genuine laugh from him, easing the tension momentarily. Charlotte's smile grew strained. Speaking of trouble, Abigail sends her regrets. She couldn't join us tonight. Her words were pointed, a reminder of her preferred match. She's practically family, you know. Her lapse in judgment doesn't change that. Ethan's temper flared. It wasn't a lapse, Mother. The wedding's off. Permanently. Abigail left me at the altar, in case you forgot. He felt Maya's hand brush his, a silent anchor. Charlotte waved a dismissive hand. A moment of panic, Ethan. She's apologized. You two were so well suited. Suitable for you, Ethan shot back, his voice rising. Not for me. I'm with Maya now. She's not a phase or a distraction. She's the woman I love. A hush fell over the nearby guests, their murmurs fading. Charlotte's smile vanished, her eyes narrowing. Love? Ethan, be reasonable. You have responsibilities. To this family, to the company. You can't throw that away for… She glanced at Maya, hesitating. Maya stepped forward, her voice calm but steely. For a bartender from Brooklyn? Go ahead and say it, Mrs. Caldwell. I know what you're thinking. I don't belong here, or am not good enough for your son. But I'm not here to fit into your world. I love Ethan for who he is, not his name or bank account. Can you say the same about Abigail? Charlotte's face flushed, her composure cracking. You presume to understand my family, Miss Johnson? The Caldwell name carries weight. Responsibilities you can't possibly comprehend. I comprehend plenty, Maya said, unflinching. Despite people like you looking down on me, I've spent my life proving I belong. My mom raised me to stand up for what matters, and Ethan's issues. He's choosing his happiness, not yours. You should try that sometime. Ethan's heart swelled, pride mixing with love. He took Maya's hand, facing his mother. She's right. I'm done letting you dictate my life. Maya's my partner. We're leaving if you can't respect that. Richard cleared his throat, his voice cutting through the tension. Let's not make a scene. Dinner's about to be served. He gestured to the dining room, but his eyes lingered on Maya, a flicker of curiosity beneath his stoicism. In the dining room, Maya was seated far from Charlotte, next to Liam, who leaned over with a grin. You've got guts, he whispered. Most people crumble under mother's glare. Across the table, Ethan caught Maya's eye, mouthing a silent, I'm sorry. She winked, her resilience a quiet reassurance. Dinner was strained, Charlotte's pointed comments about proper matches and family legacy slicing through the polite chatter. Maya met Ethan's gaze each time. Her small smiles and subtle nods grounded him. After dessert, she excused herself, and when she didn't return after 10 minutes, Ethan found her in his father's study, studying a photo of him as a boy in a prep school blazer. You okay? He asked, closing the door behind him. Maya turned, her expression softer, but resolute. I'm fine. Just needed a breather. Your mom's intense, but I've handled worse. She pointed to the photo. You were so serious, even then. Always carrying that weight? He nodded, joining her. Always. The Caldwell name. It's a legacy, but it's also a cage. Tonight, standing up to her. I've never done that before. You gave me the courage. Maya's smile was bittersweet. I meant what I said, Ethan. I love you, but I won't live in that cage. I need to know you're all in, regardless of their thoughts. I am, he said, taking her hands. Let's go. We don't need their approval. Ethan felt a clarity he'd never known as they left the study. Maya's strength, her unyielding authenticity, was his anchor. The battle with his family wasn't over, but he was ready to face it with her. The backyard of the Brooklyn brownstone glowed under strings of fairy lights, their soft twinkle casting a warm halo over the crisp fall evening. Ethan Caldwell stood at a makeshift grill, flipping burgers as laughter and music filled the air. 6 months had passed since the tense confrontation at his mother's birthday dinner, and now he and Maya Johnson were hosting a housewarming party to celebrate their new home, a restored brownstone blocks from O'Malley's. Along one wall, a makeshift gallery displayed Maya's paintings, vibrant cityscapes, and portraits that had drawn a crowd to a Williamsburg gallery, where 3 had sold on opening night. Ethan's heart swelled with pride as he watched guests admire her work, a testament to her courage after years of hiding her talent. Maya moved through the crowd, a glass of wine in hand, her navy dress catching the light as she introduced Ethan's business associate, Nathan, to her friends Tara, Jamal, and Lena. The blend of their worlds, Manhattan suits mingling with Brooklyn artists and locals, felt like a minor miracle. Tara, the social worker, debated neighborhood policies with Nathan, while Jamal, the jazz musician, strummed a guitar, his melodies weaving through the chatter. The nurse Lena laughed with Liam, Ethan's brother, who'd become a regular visitor to Brooklyn, drawn to its relaxed vibe and Maya's sharp wit. Ethan caught Maya's eye across the yard, her smile a quiet anchor. He handed the grill tongs to Nathan, who grinned. "Great party, man. Maya's art is unreal. You were right about her." "I'm always right," Ethan teased, his gaze lingering on Maya. "I'm happier than I've ever been, Nathan. This, her, this life, it's real." He'd sold his Manhattan penthouse, the memories of Abigail too heavy, and moved into the brownstone with Maya, keeping his company apartment for late work nights. His days now balanced boardroom deals with evenings at O'Malley's or walks through Prospect Park, a rhythm that felt like home. The doorbell chimed, audible over the backyard's hum. Maya mouthed, "I'll get it," and disappeared inside. Moments later, she returned, flanked by 2 unexpected guests, Charlotte and Richard Caldwell. A hush fell over nearby guests as Ethan froze, burger spatula in hand. His parents had declined the invitation with a formal note, citing prior commitments. Yet here they were, Charlotte in a tailored coat, Richard in a crisp blazer, their expressions carefully neutral. "Mother, father," Ethan said, crossing the yard. "I thought you couldn't make it." "We reconsidered," Richard said, his voice stiff but not unkind. "Your mother wanted to see your new home." Charlotte's eyes scanned the backyard, taking in the fairy lights, the eclectic crowd, and Maya's paintings. "It's charming," she said, her tone softer than Ethan expected. Maya stepped forward, her smile warm but guarded. "Mrs. Caldwell, let me show you around. The kitchen's just finished, and the art studio's coming along." To Ethan's surprise, Charlotte nodded, following Maya inside. Richard headed to the bar, where Liam greeted him with a shocked grin. "Didn't expect you here, Dad," Liam said, pouring a drink. "Brooklyn's growing on me, you know." Maya's good for Ethan, makes him laugh like he hasn't in years. Ethan trailed Maya and Charlotte, catching up in the renovated kitchen, where exposed brick blended with modern appliances. "We kept the original moldings," Maya was saying, pointing out details. "Wanted to honor the brownstone's history." Charlotte nodded, her expression thawing. "You have good taste. It's functional, yet warm." They moved to the art studio, where canvases stood on easels, half-finished works of Brooklyn's vibrancy. "These are yours?" Charlotte asked, studying a cityscape. "Yes," Maya said, her voice steady. "I'm working on a series about the borough, its people, its spirit." "You're very talented," Charlotte said, her tone genuine. She turned to them both, her eyes softer. "I owe you an apology, Maya. And you, Ethan. I was wrong at my birthday dinner. I was so focused on our family's image, I couldn't see what made you happy." She glanced at Maya. "You make him happy." Ethan exchanged a stunned glance with Maya. "What changed your mind?" he asked. Charlotte said we saw Abigail in the Hamptons. She was preoccupied with appearances, always posing for photos. It made me realize how much you've changed, Ethan. Liam's been singing your praises, saying you're more yourself here. She offered a small smile. I want to be part of that. Maya stepped forward, her voice warm. Mrs. Caldwell, Charlotte, would you like a glass of wine? We've got a great Cabernet open. Please, Charlotte said, her smile genuine. And call me Charlotte. As they rejoined the party, Ethan watched, amazed, as Charlotte accepted a drink from Mike, complimented Lena's dress, and even laughed at one of Jamal's quips. Maya sidled up to him, her eyes twinkling. Did your mom get body snatched? She's chatting with my friends like she belongs here. Ethan chuckled, wrapping an arm around her. Maybe she's finally seeing what I saw that first night at O'Malley's, that there's more to life than status. He pulled her close, her warmth against him grounding. Or she's plotting to kidnap me. Maya laughed, leaning into him. Either way, it's progress. As the night unfolded, with Manhattan's skyline glittering across the river and their blended community laughing under the fairy lights, Ethan felt a profound contentment. This was the life he'd chosen, not the one planned for him, but one built on love and truth. Maya looked up, her eyes soft. Happy? Incredibly, Ethan said, kissing her gently. Getting left at the altar was the luckiest day of my life. She smiled against his lips. Sometimes the best love comes after the fall, surrounded by their world, friends, family, and the promise of their shared future. Ethan knew this hard-won and authentic love would last.